This video is about how high blood pressure affects your memory, and why it's more serious than most people realize. Many believe memory problems after 50 are just part of getting older. A little forgetfulness here, a missed appointment there, nothing to worry about. But what if I told you that one of the biggest threats to your memory isn't aging, but something silently damaging your brain every single day? Research now shows that high blood pressure, even when it's not severe, can shrink parts of the brain responsible for memory and thinking, and the damage often starts years before symptoms appear. In this video, we'll look at the science behind this connection, what warning signs to watch for, and what you can do to protect your brain starting today. Let's begin. Part 1. What high blood pressure does to the brain. First, let's understand what high blood pressure actually is. Blood pressure is the force of your blood pushing against the walls of your arteries. A normal reading is usually around 120/80. When it goes higher, consistently above 130/80, that's considered high blood pressure or hypertension. The problem is, high blood pressure doesn't cause obvious symptoms. You can feel completely fine and still have it, but over time it silently damages the body, and that includes the brain. Here's how. High blood pressure causes tiny blood vessels in the brain to narrow, thicken, or even rupture. When this happens, the brain's supply of oxygen and nutrients gets disrupted, and when brain cells don't get enough oxygen, they begin to die. The areas of the brain most affected, the ones responsible for memory, attention, and decision-making. MRI scans have shown that people with high blood pressure, especially in midlife, often have smaller brains later in life. Not just from aging, but from damage to the white matter. That's the part of the brain that connects different regions together, like a highway system for your thoughts. How early damage begins. You might think this only happens to people in their 70s or 80s, but that's not the case. One study published in the journal Neurology followed people from their 40s into older age. Those who had high blood pressure in midlife had more brain shrinkage and worse memory by the time they were seniors. This means the damage begins quietly, often decades before we notice anything is wrong. In fact, researchers have coined the term silent brain injury to describe this process. You might not have a stroke, you might not faint, but little by little, memory gets duller. You might forget conversations, lose focus during reading, struggle to recall names or appointments. These changes are subtle, but they are not harmless, and they are not inevitable. The strongest evidence of all comes from studies linking high blood pressure to dementia, including Alzheimer's disease. In 2020, a large meta-analysis published in the journal Hypertension looked at over 100,000 participants. The results were clear. People with high blood pressure had a significantly higher risk of developing dementia later in life. Another study from the Lancet Commission on Dementia Prevention highlighted 12 modifiable risk factors for dementia. High blood pressure was one of the top contributors. What's more, lowering blood pressure, even by a small amount, was shown to reduce the risk. This gives us hope, because while we can't change our age or genetics, we can take steps to protect our brains through better blood pressure control. Why midlife matters most. You may be wondering, if I'm already over 60, is it too late? The answer is no, but researchers emphasize that controlling blood pressure in midlife, between ages 40 and 65, seems to have the most powerful effect on long-term brain health. That's when the brain is still resilient, still able to heal and adapt. And that's when early changes caused by high blood pressure can still be slowed or even reversed. So even if you feel healthy now, it's worth knowing your numbers and acting early, because the goal isn't just to live longer, it's to stay sharp, independent, and mentally strong as we age. What's considered high? Let's be specific for a moment. The American Heart Association defines the following ranges: normal, less than 120/80; elevated, 120 to 129 over less than 80; high, stage 1, 130 to 139 over 80 to 89; high, stage 2, 140 or higher over 90 or higher. Even at stage 1, research shows brain changes can begin. That's why doctors now recommend paying attention even at the elevated stage, especially if you have other risks like diabetes, obesity, or a family history of dementia. You don't need sky-high numbers for your brain to be affected. What you can do. Starting now, here's the good news. You don't need medication to start protecting your brain. In many cases, lifestyle changes alone can lower blood pressure naturally. In part 2 of this video, we'll walk through which foods lower blood pressure and protect brain tissue, the best types of physical activity for brain health, how sleep and stress affect memory, when to talk to your doctor, and what to ask. It's not about fear, it's about empowerment. You have more control over your brain health than you might think. Now that we understand the connection between high blood pressure and memory decline, let's talk about what you can do. These steps are not complicated, but they are powerful. Even small improvements in blood pressure can lead to real measurable benefits in how your brain functions and how it ages. So, let's begin with the foundation lifestyle. Eat for your brain and your heart. There is no single magic food, but the overall pattern of your diet matters more than you might think. Studies consistently show that the DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, lowers blood pressure and supports brain health. It emphasizes leafy greens, berries, and vegetables, whole grains like brown rice and oats, nuts, seeds, and legumes, lean proteins like fish and poultry, low-fat dairy, and very little sodium, added sugar, or processed food. One study from Alzheimer's and Dementia Journal found that people who followed a variation of the DASH diet, called the MIND diet, had a 53% lower risk of Alzheimer's disease when they followed it closely. Food isn't just fuel, it's medicine for the brain. Get moving. It's brain exercise too. Physical activity doesn't just help your heart, it literally improves memory and focus. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain, reduces inflammation, and supports the growth of new brain cells, especially in the hippocampus, the region most affected by memory loss. You don't need a gym membership. Try brisk walking for 30 minutes a day, gentle yoga or tai chi, dancing, gardening, or swimming. Aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate activity per week. One study in neurology found that older adults who exercised regularly had larger brain volume and performed better on memory tests, even if they started later in life. It's never too late to move your body and strengthen your mind. Sleep is not a luxury, it's brain maintenance. Poor sleep and high blood pressure often go hand in hand, and both are linked to memory problems. Sleep is when the brain clears out waste, consolidates memories, and resets. Without enough quality rest, this vital housekeeping doesn't happen. Try to aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, keep a consistent bedtime, avoid caffeine and screens before bed, and keep your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. One long-term study published in Nature Aging showed that people over 50 who consistently slept less than 6 hours per night had a higher risk of developing dementia. Sleep protects your brain. Prioritize it. Manage stress. Calm mind, steady pressure. Chronic stress releases hormones that raise blood pressure and damage brain cells over time. You can't eliminate stress completely, but you can train your nervous system to respond differently. Consider deep breathing exercises, guided meditation, journaling or prayer, spending time in nature, or talking to a trusted friend or counselor. In a study from the Journal of the American Heart Association, people who practiced mindfulness-based stress reduction had better blood pressure control and improved cognitive function. The calmer your mind, the healthier your brain. Know when to seek medical help. Sometimes lifestyle changes aren't enough, and that's okay. If your blood pressure remains high despite your efforts, talk to your doctor. They may recommend medication, and that can be a life-saving decision. Modern blood pressure medications are safe, effective, and can reduce the risk of stroke, dementia, and heart disease. What matters most is getting your blood pressure under control and keeping it there. Ask your doctor. What is my current blood pressure? What is my target range based on my age and health? Are there any hidden causes like sleep apnea or kidney issues? Would home monitoring help me stay on track? The more informed you are, the more empowered you become. Memory loss is not always a mystery. Sometimes the cause is right in front of us, quietly shaping our brain health day after day. High blood pressure may be invisible, but its impact is very real. And thankfully, it's one of the most treatable risk factors for memory decline. You don't have to wait for symptoms to take action. Every healthy choice, every walk, every meal, every good night's sleep is an investment in a clearer, stronger mind. You have more power than you think, and it's never too late to start protecting the brain that holds your memories, your identity, your life. Stay well, and take care of your mind, one day at a time.